Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always. Bit of a late one, not really a late one, but recording at 10 p.m. local time here in Toronto. As my guest is coming on for round two. And guys, if you did not catch round one, this lad came on the show and had some pretty spicy takes. One in particular about pudgy penguins, and pretty much said that they would continue to go parabolic and that they would continue to rip and be one of the biggest ecosystems in all of crypto. I sort of thought he was a bit fugazi. I'm pretty sure I called him out on the show. It was one of the hotter takes we've had, and he was right. So we'll get into that as well. Today we have Alex Svanevik on the show today, CEO and co-founder of Nansen, background in AI, 10 years experience as a data scientist and management consultant before co-founding Nansen in 2019, and is an initial DAO member of Lido Finance and PleasrDAO. I mean, geez, you guys all know who he is, so we can cut the bio short. But Alex, welcome back to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on. How is Singapore treating you these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Singapore is treating me well. The weather is hot and humid as usual. Can't complain. It's a good place to be.
I love it. We've had a bit of a heat wave here. People are losing their shit. Last couple of days, 36 feels like 45. I sort of love that, to be honest. It doesn't really bother me, but...
Wait, 36 Celsius?
Yeah, feels like 45. Toasty.
Wow, that's very high. That's even higher than here, actually. We're cruising at around 30 typically throughout the year.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, you guys have like same season pretty much. I mean, man, so many different places to start. I guess overall sort of market present day, we're recording the end of June. This will also air end of June. I think that sort of the main topic present day, Alex, is public treasury companies. Everyone's doing them for good reason. TradFi's finally interested in crypto. Circle went absolutely parabolic. We can get into that too. What's your take on this, and who do you want to start with? There's so many good ones out there right now. A couple maybe not so good ones, but tons of really interesting, really cool companies out there.
I actually had lunch with someone who was sort of pitching the idea of making us one of these companies.
Really?
So, yeah.
What exchange?
Sorry?
Okay. What exchange?
Oh, I can't disclose.
Can't tell me.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, this is what's on everyone's mind. To me, it's kind of ironic because like I'm very excited about the future where every asset gets tokenized. And this is kind of the inverse, right? You're like taking tokens and then putting them on a TradFi
reverse
exchange.
Tokenization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit ironic in that sense. And also I was thinking about the other day, I was actually going to do an analysis on this, that there are, DAOs and projects in crypto who have massive treasuries, but typically they trade at a discount to the treasury. So it's almost like, feels like that's an opportunity, right? Like find all the kind of projects that raised tons of money in 2016, 2017, ended up with enormous treasuries, and turn those projects into like digital assets treasury companies. That would probably be not such a bad idea. Right? Like think of like Gnosis or, a lot of these projects that just raised a ton of money. But I mean, I think it does show that there's a lot of interest in crypto outside of the sort of conventional ways that you would acquire crypto.
Yeah.
And that's bullish. It's exciting. And it does feel like this is only getting started. Like this is clearly happening everywhere. And whether, companies are buying Hype or Bitcoin or Sol or whatever it is, like it's generally a good thing that capital is flowing into the space in this manner.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, I don't want to say there's going to be a tipping point, but I feel like I agree with all 4 or 5 of the coins you obviously just said, but like I feel like we're going to go down the chopping block and there's going to be some pretty suspect coins popping off where companies are going to unload a clip into, I don't want to put anyone down, but crypto company X, Y, or Z or ABC, where it's like, guys, what are we doing here? I feel like it's very good right now. And I also think that we haven't even really hit escape velocity yet for both these TradFi companies, obviously with crypto public balance sheets and crypto itself. I still don't understand how, I mean, you can tell us about this. You're the guy who runs, one of the biggest analytics platforms in crypto, but you have Sailor and MetaPlanet and everyone buying just thousands of Bitcoin every single week and the price still isn't going up. I think we're in a really good spot right now. I hope we don't get too greedy and shittier ecosystems don't get adopted on public treasuries. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I do think Bitcoin and price has has been doing really well, I think, considering the macro environment of lots of uncertainty geopolitically and everything. So I think actually Bitcoin price is doing pretty well. But, all the so-called altcoins, I guess, have not done so well. My extremely simple analysis on this is that, crypto, although we like to talk about how fiat has like infinite inflation on a long enough time horizon, crypto has inflation in like a horizontal manner, in the sense that you can just issue new tokens all the time, right? So you sure, like, your individual token has a capped supply, but you can create infinite tokens with a capped supply. So there's only so much capital that can chase like 5 million meme coins, right? And so I think, that's one aspect of it. The other thing is we do have lots of L1s, and these layer ones have to compete with each other. I'm not going to say it's a race to the bottom, but they're obviously very competitive with each other. And again, there's only so much capital that can go into layer ones. But I've spent a lot of time in the last, I guess, 18 months looking at layer ones in particular, and also layer twos, because it's been such an open-ended race now with which chains are actually winning. And, we were chatting a little bit about Hyperliquid before we jumped on, and obviously that's one chain that's just crushing it. But it's been interesting to see Ethereum kind of, in my view, becoming dethroned on, not just in my view, but like quantitatively, it's become dethroned on a lot of on-chain metrics. So so that's really interesting too. And, my view is that you do have, say, like a handful of layer ones in particular who have lots of usage. Also like a couple of layer twos in particular base that have tons of on-chain activity. And so let's see if the price action catches up with that on-chain activity.
Is that base action real? And I the only reason I say this is because I've used it before. I personally don't think the UX is as good as Solana when it comes to the kind of on-chain degeneracy. That's just my opinion and the opinions of my peers and the folks that I've spoke to. But like, is this action real? Because Alex, I don't know anyone who uses base all the time. And again, that's just me. I'm in Toronto. I'm in North America. I don't talk to that many crypto folks like around the world kind of thing. But I don't know.
I mean, I think it's not. The answer is probably somewhat nuanced, right? Because naturally on all of these chains, you have some degree of farming going on and like inorganic use. But I think I would, I would say I definitely don't think all of it's inorganic. I think a lot of it is genuine usage. And I'm just looking at the numbers now, like in the last 7 days, Base had 13 million active addresses.
Holy
what percentage
crap.
of those are like real humans, and like how many is like humans with multiple wallets? Of course, with the fees being so low, it's quite easy to spin up tons of wallets and like programmatically control them and all that stuff. But it's important to keep in mind that Coinbase itself has incredible distribution, right? So I think that's probably the thing where maybe some of us who are very crypto native aren't that active on Base, but I think a lot of folks that they can reach who are maybe taking their first steps into the on-chain world through Coinbase and the mobile apps that Coinbase has and so on could be one way that they're actually getting distribution. So, and just to compare it, right? Like BNB chain has actually, so Base has gone past BNB chain actually in the last 7 days at least. BNB chain is about 10 million active addresses. Base is 13 million. And BNB chain also has Binance as like an incredible distribution engine, right? So I think a lot of it is real, but it's a little bit hard to say exactly how much is kind of inorganic.
Got you. I love how you just pull up the chart right in front of us. Like it's just, it's like he's going right for the data here. I love it. Okay.
And by the way, like Solana, because you mentioned Solana, does have twice as many active addresses as Base, right? So I think that instinct is also correct, that Solana is still the leader actually in terms of on-chain activity on many on-chain metrics.
Internet capital markets, baby. Okay. Alex,
Indeed.
you're already on fire, but we got two things I want to discuss. Hyperliquid, I'd love to take it, not a deep dive, but at least a dive into Hyperliquid, and we'll do that in a hot sec. You brought up a great point about which chains are winning, and you said you and the team have done a pretty extensive deep dive into L1s and L2s. Winning is a nuanced word. How do you, and everyone in crypto has their own definition of winning. how do you define a chain that's winning? Is it TVL? Is it DAU? Or sorry, I'm talking gibberish here for the folks who might not know. Total value locked, daily active users. What metrics do you look at to define which chain is winning present day?
Yeah, it's a great question. And if I would have to give one metric, I would actually look at revenues of the chain. In other words, how much transactional revenues. Exactly.
I like
how
it.
much revenue is generated.
I saw such a good tweet today when it was like the new Web3 meta is revenue, and it's like that's just how you define a successful business in every other industry in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Because to your point earlier, like, you know, it's hard to farm revenue or to inorganically create revenue, right?
Yeah.
So because that is literally like how much people are paying to use your chain. And that to me, it sort of captures a lot of aspects of a chain at once. Because I think if you want to decompose this a little bit, I would think of kind of two conceptual dimensions. One is just like people, the number of users, number of active addresses, and so on. And the other dimension is capital, right? So how much capital, and then so you could look at, for the people dimension, you look at things like active addresses, you know, growth in that, or absolute numbers. For the capital dimension, you look at things like how much stablecoin issuance is there on the chain, how much TVL is there, maybe even what's the value of its native asset, like ETH for Ethereum or Sol for Solana, which actually plays a big role in metrics like TVL. For example, for Ethereum, the second largest DeFi protocol is Lido, which is literally only ETH, right? So the value of ETH directly drives TVL on Ethereum. But then you have chains like Tron, for example, which I don't know if you knew this, but it is the highest revenue generator of chains. Hyperliquid is a little bit different because Hyperliquid has like the trading revenues, right? So let's keep Hyperliquid aside for a moment. If you just look at sort of smart contract platforms and transactional fees, Tron is actually number one, which not a lot of people know that. But
wow.
And then Tron also has the second most tether. It used to have the most tether of any chain, right? Many people think of Tron as like the tether chain. So Tron is an interesting one that you never hear about on crypto Twitter, but it does actually have like pretty solid on-chain metrics. And it is used a lot around the world in places where you want access to the US dollar, but you don't have, you know, banking rails for people.
USDT on Tron is elite. It is, I will say.
Totally.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the cheapest too.
Yeah, I think right now, I don't think it's the cheapest anymore, although there have been some, like, I think some subsidies or whatever, but historically it's been the cheapest. That's why it has always been so good, right? Like Ethereum at some point was way too expensive to transfer USDT if you're like in Egypt or Argentina and you're just transferring $10 to someone, right? But so Tron has always, it has been the cheapest. I don't know if it's actually the cheapest right now, but it still has that network effect from all the users of Tether on it.
Interesting. Wow, Tron. Okay, so revenue. Folks, you heard it from Alex. Revenue is the new meta in crypto. I just find it so funny that we're talking about this. And I think this is a great sort of segue into like the convergence of TradFi and crypto. Like TradFi wants to see revenue. Like that's something they care about. I mean, TradFi and revenue are synonymous. When you raise money, a lot of it's like, what's your MRR? What's your ARR? What's your run? Like they care about revenue. Revenue's one of the biggest words they use all the time. And we don't really give a shit about that. And now we're finally giving a shit about it, which is great.
VCs don't want revenue though. I don't know if you've seen the Silicon Valley episode where where they talk about revenue, and it's like, wait, what did you say? Revenue? No. We're pre-revenue, right? Because then the sky's the limit on how valuable your company can be. And I frankly, like, that's like half joke, but it's
true.
You know, a pretty big factor in crypto, because like most crypto projects are inherently like worthless, right? That's just a fact. You know, 99.9% maybe of like every token out there is basically garbage or worthless.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have any revenues, you can sort of have a very compelling narrative. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's mostly just vapor. But at some point the rubber hits the road, and like, you know, you meet reality.
Exactly.
And as someone who's, you know, I've always been a revenue maximalist, even how we run the company at Nansen. So like we charge for our product on day one. Like a trial, you had to pay $9 to try the product. So anyway, like, yeah, revenue should be the new meta. I agree.
That's so good. Okay, I might piss some people off with this, and if you don't want to answer this, we can cut this. So I apologize in advance. I still don't understand, and I get reached out from so many of my non-crypto friends, Alex, family as well. Someone will shill them XRP, and they're like, Matt, what do you think? It's gonna replace the traditional banking system, and
yeah, it's a mystery. The other one is Cardano, which is maybe more of a mystery. Yeah,
but let's start with XRP. It's in the top 5. How the hell is it still in the top 5? What? Alex, we've had 450 episodes. I think I've had maybe one Ripple guest on the show in 450 episodes.
Yeah. It's honestly, like I said, a bit of a mystery to me. I've looked into some of the on-chain metrics, and there's not a lot of activity going on, frankly, especially if you look at number of users, right? So if you think of capital and users, like I said, capital and people, the people dimension, let's say, is very low. Like I think it's not more than like 50,000 daily active addresses or something. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the range, which is like literally a tenth of most other chains, right? But then they do have an enormous treasury. And so if you think about projects like RLUSD, their stable coin, then, okay, you can deploy so much treasury onto that chain, so much capital onto that chain, that you can kind of, I guess, like will your way into some form of like importance, let's say, or
the top 5 though. The top 5.
Yeah, this is where, and then the other thing is, I think every token is subject to the fundamentals of like supply and demand, and so if you can sort of control the supply, and I don't mean to say this in any like kind of conspiracy theory way. Like, I just think if you can control the supply, you can also manage the price action to some extent, right?
Of course.
So yeah. I don't want to speculate too much into it because I literally haven't spent that much time looking at it. I've looked at some of the on-chain metrics, and I do find it a little bit puzzling. So I think if anything, it's the capital dimension that's keeping them, in play. With Cardano, I don't know what's going on there because there's like no people using it practically. I think it's like 20,000 daily active addresses. And again, this is not from our numbers because we haven't integrated it, but I've looked at some other sources and I think it's around 20,000, not more than 50,000 addresses a day. And there's not a lot of TVL either. I guess they have a treasury also because they raised money early on. So maybe they just have a treasury. They can like control the price to some extent. And then there's also like Charles Hoskinson, who is kind of a, maybe you could say like Cardano is kind of a YouTube meme coin for his personality to some extent.
Yeah.
And some people find him exciting.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But there are some of these chains that are like puzzling to me.
Those are two that I just can't explain, Alex. Like I can go through the top 10 and now with Hyperliquid in the 11th spot and give a very good reason to potentially want to have exposure to each of those, minus those two that we just discussed. But again, XRP, like when my friends are like, oh, is it going to replace the traditional banking system? I'm like, man, you got to get off TikTok. Like, what are we doing here? And then same as Cardano, when they say, well, what's going on there? I just say, well, like, do your research, but I'm not the guy to talk to there. I find it puzzling.
Yeah. I think Hyperliquid is like an inverse XRP in a few different ways because number one, the team is super lean. Hyperliquid team. Super lean. Ripple is a massive organization, right? Just to contrast.
How many people at Hyperliquid now? What is it? 21?
No, I think it's like 11 or it's like less than 20 for sure.
Wow.
It's small, but they're like incredibly stacked, right? Incredible builders.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any BD people or like definitely don't have any marketing people. But no marketing. So the team is very small. The other thing is that it's also kind of a chain that just does like one thing really well, which is to build for the trading experience.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it's very transparent, right? Whereas with Ripple and XRP, it's kind of, they do a bunch of different things and it's kind of hard to grok like what they actually do, right? So it's more this like opaque thing, which to be fair, like maybe it's just that you and I haven't like studied it enough and we just don't know what they do and they do valuable stuff that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
It could be. But with Hyperliquid, it's kind of what you see is what you get. like, hey, it's go and use the product. It's like a trading product that's a fantastic user experience, and it just works, and people love using it, and you can, get stats on it, and like we have a bunch of analytics on Hyperliquid as well as Hyper EVM, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of an inverse XRP in that sense.
Yeah, well said. We're on Hyperliquid. Let's buzz on Hyperliquid for a bit. One thing, and obviously I've been pitching Hyperliquid quite a bit now with HOLQ, but one thing with Hyperliquid that I've really found is the aspect of it being cool. And there's pros and cons to this, but especially in our industry, Alex, being cool really is paramount to success. Bitcoin will always be cool. Ethereum has sort of not really been cool over the last year and a bit, and look what's happened to it. Solana's been cool, right? XRP, not cool, but still somehow cool. Yeah, we can go down the whole list, but Hyperliquid is very cool because of how it makes you feel. And you can't really fake authenticity.
It's very,
and Hyperliquid is authentically cool as well.
Yes, it's very interesting how you put it that way, because I've always thought of it as like it's a cult in a positive way.
Yeah.
And you want chains or you want tokens to be cults. Like every token is a community.
100%.
And the communities need to be cult-like. And so it's definitely very cult-like. But then you could also say, going back to the XRP comparison, XRP is also kind of a cult. Like you see,
it's a huge cult.
It's a cult. But then the word you use is cool. And Hyperliquid is very cool. It's like, it's a cult and it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if XRP is that cool, at least not in my circles. Again, not to dunk on them, but like, I don't think of it as like cool project in that sense. And so essentially, like, I think you're right. There's a coolness to it. There's like memes. There's like the Hyperliquid meme, just like saying Hyperliquid.
So good.
And yeah, it just works. I think also another thing I would mention is that every L1 is also a cult of personality. I can't think of a single L1 that is not a cult of personality to some extent.
Yep.
And Jeff,
I agree,
is like a universally loved figure, which is a little bit unusual, actually, because L1 personalities tend to be quite controversial.
Yep.
Whereas he's just a cool guy who is incredibly smart.
Just grinding.
Amazing builder. Grinding for years. And it's like, yeah, it's his main quest. He doesn't have any side quests. It's like Hyperliquid is the thing.
Did you hear that podcast last week? Did you listen to that?
Which one? Oh, with Hasib and the guys? Or
yeah. Yes.
I listened to the first part of it, and I think Hasib made a good point that he is actually universally loved, which is unusual. I mean, there's a lot of L1 personalities, right? Think obviously Satoshi is kind of the iconic, which we don't even know like who they are. Yeah. But then we just talked about Charles Hoskinson, obviously very like controversial, like loved by some and like hated by others.
Vitalik,
and then you have Vitalik,
it's true.
Totally
fits the bill.
Do Kwon.
Yep.
Do Kwon is maybe kind of one of the most iconic, actually, and I say that in a neutral way, in the sense that he was certainly loved by many and also hated by many, and obviously hated by more now after what happened.
Yeah.
CZ, he's an exchange founder, but he's also an L1 founder with BNB Chain. Obviously super iconic. So like basically every L1, like Tron, Justin Sun, right? Every L1 has a personality. But yeah, with Hyperliquid, they do have that, but it's a different style, which is also, I think, pretty cool.
And one of my biggest takeaways was when Hasib asked Jeff, I think he asked about the war maybe, or he asked about like what's going on crypto Twitter, and Jeff's like, I don't really spend any time. He's like, I just wake up, I piss excellence, and I'm paraphrasing. He's way too humble to say that, but he's like, I just wake up and I just haul ass on Hyperliquid for 18 hours a day, and I sleep and I wake up and I rinse and repeat every single day of my life. He's like, all we do is just build really cool stuff and ship it quickly. Like, how that is exactly what you want in a founder. Like that is literally what you want.
I mean, we had an event with Hyperliquid at our office, and Jeff was there. And that's what he's like. He's a builder. Like he is 100% a builder. He talks to, when he spoke at that event to, the cult, you could tell the cult's very excited, right? But he's a very humble guy, and he is just excited to build the best possible product and chain that he can create. So Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that because I do think crypto suffers from a lack of focus on product,
I agree.
right? Like there's too much, it's so easy. The incentives are such that it's better to just launch a token and like either rug pull immediately or do a slow rug pull.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. Like some of us who don't want to do that, sometimes I wonder if I'm like irrational. I should have just like rug pulled years ago, like done some bullshit token and like gotten lots of money and like retired. But for some reason, I actually believe in the overall grander vision and purpose of crypto, and I don't want to do that. But it's irrational in some ways. And I think like you could argue maybe Jeff is also irrational in the sense that he actually isn't in this to like make a quick buck. He just wants to build something really cool and build a great product.
I think Jeff's mission statement is he wants to house the future of finance, which is pretty freaking sick mission statement, you know?
Very cool. I love it.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay, Alex, you're on a roll. Quick break. Huge shout out to Prime XPT. When we get back, we are going to take a deep dive into Nansen and, of course, the points program, which I absolutely love. Probably the sickest. I mean, so many, pardon my French, bullshit bollocks points programs that have come out where it's just, you know, rug pull city population, everyone in crypto, and you guys are doing it the right way and actually giving away utility, which again just doesn't happen in space. So can't wait to get into that. Huge shout out to Prime XPT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XPT. They offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XPT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50. That's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Alex. Okay, let's jump into the points program. Already off to a hot start. I mean, I can read off a bunch of the stats I have on my computer here. Absolutely wild. I would have prefaced this with like, did you think that it would pop off like this? But I feel like you guys did. So I'm not going to ask you that, but you can talk about that. But walk me through NXP and why you guys chose to build this. Because again, you guys are already very profitable. You already have one of the most useful products/services in crypto. And I'm not just blowing smoke here. It is true. And you didn't really need to do this, but like you did, and it's been a huge success. Why did you guys choose to go the points route?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Our position in the industry is such that we are a bit of a hub, right? We work with obviously our end users who are mostly on-chain investors. We also work very closely with lots of projects that build things, mostly, you know, chain foundations, protocol teams, various projects that have tokens. We also know the exchanges really well. We know basically work with most of the top crypto products and brands over the years. And so we wanted to find a way to kind of translate this into something that would be valuable for our users. The fact that we have this incredible position in the industry, like why not make use of that and create something that's valuable for our community? And so what we set out to create was the most valuable loyalty points program in crypto. And so the idea here is quite simple, actually. Like if you are a loyal Nansen user, what that means is, you know, you subscribe to Nansen, you stake with us. We run validators for 30 plus chains, and we have more than $2 billion worth of assets staked with our validators. If you stake with us, if you refer other people to become subscribers, then you get rewarded with Nansen points. And what do these Nansen points do? To your point, they have a utility. There's a lot of points programs that don't have utility actually, and they're kind of just like a way to issue some kind of.
You off. What like? It is so wild to me when a company issues a points program followed by an airdrop, and it's like, bro, what did you think was going to happen? Of course, everyone's going to unload the clip. Your whole ecosystem is now done forever. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's what I mean about
this. But that's what I mean. Okay, this is like a slight sidebar, but here's my mental model. Are you a multi-cycle founder or a single cycle founder? Single cycle founders will do what you just described because they're not in it for the long run. And you launch the token, you give everyone an airdrop, you're a hero for like a week. Then people start dumping it and people start buying it on the, you know, the secondary market. And by the way, like, sure, we gave it away. It's actually, here's the nefarious thing about like airdrops where the token is worthless, right? This is not talked about so much, but I think it's actually quite bad. Like if I, have a piece of paper and I write $10,000 on the piece of paper, right? And I give it to you for free, right? And a third party shows up and they're like, oh, $10,000? I'll buy that for $10,000. And so you sell that for $10,000. And then that third party later on is like, wait a minute, this is just a piece of paper. It doesn't do shit. It just says $10,000 on it. The question really is,
That's wild.
Who did you get the $10,000 from?
Yeah.
Me, the person who gave you the airdrop, or the secondary buyer, right? And I think like it's actually quite nefarious to create useless tokens and airdrop them, because the people who suffer are the third parties that buy them off the market, which mostly is uninformed retail investors.
100%.
So this is like, it's a bit of a sidebar and a bit of a kind of very actually kind of a dark thought about our whole industry. But I think we don't want to do that. Like that's bad. I think that's super bad. It's like bad for your own project. It's bad for actually, the third parties that end up buying these things and get screwed and like lose their savings. It's really bad actually. So what we want to do with points is to create, by the way, and just to be super clear, right? Points are not, they're not tokens, they're points. They're literally just points on a balance that you accrue, and then you can get utility from them. And the three ways that you get utility are, number one, you get Nansen rewards or benefits, which are pretty standard things, like you get a discount on your subscription, which is nice if you're, actually using the product. That's a good thing. It helps you. But you also, for the higher tiers, get access to certain things like our Alpha Discord, which is a curated Discord with our research team and community managers, and lots of great plugins built into the channels with smart alerts and things like that. It's actually super cool. And it used to be only accessible to the professional subscribers that paid $12,000 a year for our product. But now it's accessible to the two highest tiers in the points program as well. So these are Nansen rewards. The second types of rewards are partner rewards. And so these are things like fast track VIP status with Bybit. So immediately, if you're like if you're at the ice tier, which is basically the second tier, or the North or the Start tier, which is tiers 3 and 4, you get fast track VIP status with Bybit, which means you get trading discounts, rebates, and a bunch of other benefits with Bybit. We have discounts on buying Ledger. We have other free information products that you get access to, Tokenomics, Delphi Digital, Velo, which is great for like monitoring perps and things like that. And so these are like partner rewards. These are like, you could kind of sum them all up and put some dollar value on it, which is actually pretty high if you put it all together. But these are just things you get as if you're kind of gold tier, airline miles customer, right?
As soon as I did the research for the show, I was like, this reminds me of my Amex Platinum.
Like, that's right. That's what it is.
You're getting real world shit with it. And it's not only I can exchange my points with Air Canada, who I'm loyal to, same thing, or my Air Canada membership. It's like, this reminds me of an airline or a credit card, which is what you want.
And by the way, there's nothing like nefarious about this. Why does it work? Why does it make sense? Because this is like a three-way win-win-win, right? You, as a Nansen points holder, are a valuable on-chain user, right? Yep. That's a proxy for kind of your reputation or who you are on-chain.
100%.
If you use Nansen, and if you've used Nansen for ages, you've staked with us and all that stuff, you are definitely a valuable on-chain user and not someone who's like out there just, randomly farming some stuff. You are like an actual on-chain user that chains want to have in their ecosystem. That's point one, right? And these partners, by giving out these perks, they can reach you, right? So it's like, it's basically an advertising spend for them, but it's a benefit for you as the user. And for us, of course, it's a win because it allows us to give more value to our end users. So basically, the three parties all benefit from this, but there's nothing like nefarious going on under the hood. It's just, it's a valuable community, and the community can get perks, and they can choose to, redeem those perks or not. But that's how it works. So that's the partner perks, and we have a seasonal points program, which means roughly every 3 months it's a new season, and the partners that people really like, and we will want to double down on. Maybe the partner benefits that people don't use will like roll them off, and it will bring in other partner perks. And so over time, it just gets more and more valuable.
Season one kicks off in a couple days, right?
It has kicked off. Yeah, it kicked off.
It has kicked off. Okay.
It kicked off 17th of June, so that's 9 days ago. Yeah,
gotcha.
So it's kicked off, but so it's a great time to jump in now, because we've literally just launched things like points multipliers. Like if you subscribe and stake, you get a multiplier. If you stake more than 20,000 or more than 100,000, you get multipliers, which means you accrue more points. So you can like very quickly reach the tier you want. And so let me just touch on the third types of benefits, because this one is quite novel and fun. This is what we call permissionless rewards. And what this is essentially when you reach the green tier, which requires 1,000 points, it's like the first kind of real tier, then you get to input addresses that we will basically make public along with your points balance. So, if you're worried about privacy, you can just create a new wallet. Like you don't have to share your actual main wallet or anything like that. But you just input an address. This is my EVM address. This is my Sol address, where I'm going to be part of the permissionless rewards list. And so this list will have these addresses and their points balance. And like I just said earlier, chains, protocols, etc., will want to get these people into their ecosystem. Yeah. What's the way to do that?
Power users. Yeah.
These are power users. You can whitelist them for, mints or token sales. You can even maybe send them some tokens if you want. Yeah. And so we've created like a permissionless inbox for you to receive stuff based on how many points you have. So your points balance is public. Your address that you've inputted there is public. And, we don't get in the middle of that. That's why it's called permissionless. Like we don't take any cut of anything. If people want to do airdrops or whatever, they can just do that permissionlessly to the points holders. But you have to have 1,000 points to be on the list.
Gotcha.
So that's a cutoff that ensures that the people on the list are actually, valuable users that they will want to reach. And so anyway, to sum up, Nansen rewards, partner rewards, and permissionless rewards are the three types of rewards you get with points.
I love that. Love what you guys are doing. We're getting a little tight for time. Oh, I wish I had more time here. I could do a Joe Rogan pod with you, just 3 hours of buzzing. We need a couple more Zinnertons, but that's a story for another day. Okay, Nansen staking, we will not get into because I will put that in the show notes for everyone.
Yep.
But again, guys, surpassed $2 billion in TVL, doubling since January and rising dramatically from under 100 million in September 2024. Literally, you guys have 20x'd in less than,
less than a
year.
Yeah, we acquired a company called Stake With Us. They had $60 million staked in September last year. And we actually went to 2.5 billion. With the prices contracting a little bit, we're now at like 2.1 billion, I think.
That's wild.
Pretty cool.
And everyone, I will include that in the notes. We got to go hot takes because you nailed it last time. I asked you for a spicy fucking hot take, not some like warm, lukewarm bollocks take. I asked you for a hot one, and you said Pudgy Penguins would rip and would be one of the biggest ecosystems in all of crypto. I think not biggest. You said one of the biggest consumer ecosystems, if not you got it right. June 2025, give me a hot one. See if you can go 2 for 2.
All right. Hype is going to flip Cardano this summer.
Ooh, I love that. Okay. Hype's going to flip Cardano?
Because we talked about it earlier, right? And, you've talked... Cardano is one of those chains that's like, what is it doing in the top 10? But Hyperliquid is like, it's a real project that has revenues and users. And, like, of course, it should eventually flip Cardano. But... those old chains have had some kind of resilience on their market cap and price.
Yeah,
but I think Hyperliquid will get there, and I think it'll flip it this summer. That's my prediction.
I love that. I'll just throw a little cherry on the cake there. I've been on the phone with TradFi folks, so many calls over the last 2 weeks. These guys, when I tell you, they know nothing about Hyperliquid. I give them the pitch, and I'm talking to big dogs, VPs, presidents at financial institutions, Canada, USA, Europe. And after I give them the pitch, they go, Matt, why hasn't my junior quant insert name XYZ, or why hasn't my junior trading floor person XYZ who's into crypto, why haven't these guys told me about this? I don't know, man. Maybe you got to get some new quants. Maybe you got to get some new junior traders. But they're guys not using Nansen, that's why. Yeah, they do not know about Hyperliquid. We are still so early. Anyways, yes. Alex, what an episode. Anything else popping off? News for you guys? Again, this episode's going to air on Monday, so about 4 or 5 days, give or take. Anything else popping off for you?
I mean, I would encourage people to just jump in and check out their points balance. We started building Nansen in 2019, so we actually have a lot of people who've kind of used the product. Thankfully, many of them still use the product after many years. But there are also people who haven't used it in a while, but they used to use it for like NFTs or DeFi or whatever. And this is the perfect time for those people to jump back in because they have literal Nansen points waiting for them to activate.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main folks I want to reach, are like people who've like tried Nansen in the past. There's never been a better time to use Nansen than right now. So you should just dive back in again. Go to nansen.ai and check your Nansen points balance.
Love it. Folks, what an episode with Alex Svanevik, CEO and co-founder of Nansen. Every time he comes on, he brings the heat. You guys heard his hot take. We touched a little bit of everything, all the big boys: Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Hype, XRP, Cardano, you name it, Coinbase and Base. We talked about revenue, funny enough, being the new meta in crypto. A great line from Alex: in crypto has horizontal inflation, capital and people being the most important metrics in crypto, and a big deep dive on Hyperliquid. Huge shout out to Alex and the team for making this happen. As always, I will include everything with Alex and Nansen in the show notes. And if you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did, please do subscribe. And back to the team. Love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Listeners, you guys are the GOATs. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.